The emergence. The vast darkness of space had always held secrets, but none as profound as the moment humanity first encountered the Krelon. It was not a dramatic clash of civilizations, but a delicate dance of curiosity and careful diplomacy that would ultimately reshape the future of two species. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UNSS Horizon, humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. Her dark eyes scanned the holographic displays, tracking the anomalous energy signatures that had been detected near the Orion arm. Something was different about these readings. They didn't match any known technological pattern in human databases. "Confirm sensor readings, Lieutenant Chen," she called out, her voice steadied despite the electricity of anticipation crackling through the command deck. Lieutenant Marcus Chen's fingers flew across his console, cross-referencing multiple sensor arrays. "Confirmed, Doctor. Energy signature is unique. It's not random background radiation, and it's definitely not natural stellar emissions." The ship's AI, Arya, spoke in her calm, modulated voice. "Analysis suggests an artificial origin with quantum entanglement characteristics unlike any human technology. Probability of intelligent design, 97.3%. Then they saw it. Emerging from the cosmic background like a whisper of silver and pale blue, a vessel that defied every conventional understanding of spacecraft design. Its hull seemed to shimmer, not with metallic reflection, but with an almost organic luminescence that suggested something far beyond traditional engineering. "First contact protocols," Dr. Rodriguez commanded. "Passive communication channels only. No aggressive signals." What occurred in the next few hours would become the most significant moment in human history. The Krelon vessel, sleek, almost ethereal in its design, did not react with hostility. Instead, it sent out a series of complex mathematical sequences that Arya began to decode in real time. "They're communicating through prime number progressions and quantum wave harmonics," Chen muttered, awestruck. "It's like they're speaking in the fundamental language of the universe." Dr. Rodriguez understood immediately. This wasn't just a method of communication, it was a test. The Krelon were evaluating humanity's capacity for advanced reasoning, for understanding beyond simple linguistic exchanges. Arya's translation began to take shape. "Greetings, explorers of the third planet. We are the Krelon, observers and seekers of knowledge. Your approach suggests curiosity without immediate threat." The diplomatic dance had begun. Chapter 2, Foundations of an Alliance. The initial communications were complex, taking weeks of careful translation and cultural interpretation. The Krelon, it became clear, were not a militaristic species in the traditional sense. They were scholars, strategists, and diplomats who had survived countless galactic conflicts through intelligence rather than brute force. Their civilization was ancient, having navigated the treacherous political landscapes of multiple galactic sectors for millennia. They had seen civilizations rise and fall, and they recognized in humanity a unique blend of adaptability and potential that intrigued them. The human representatives, led by Dr. Rodriguez and a panel of diplomatic and scientific experts, learned that the Krelon viewed potential allies through a lens of intellectual and strategic compatibility. They were not interested in simple resource exchanges or territorial agreements, but in comprehensive partnerships that could mutually advance knowledge and survival. "The galaxy is not kind to the unprepared," the Krelon representative, who chose the human name Zara, explained during one of their first substantive communications. "Civilizations that do not evolve, do not survive." What the Krelon saw in humanity was a species on the cusp of a profound transformation. Humans had survived multiple near-extinction events on their own planet, developed complex problem-solving skills, and demonstrated an almost relentless capacity for adaptation. The strategic implications were clear. The Krelon had long been aware of the Dravak, a civilization of conquest that consumed everything in its path. They had survived by remaining strategically invisible, by understanding and manipulating complex political dynamics. But they knew that strategy alone would not be enough forever. Humanity, with its emerging interstellar capabilities and rapidly advancing military technology, represented a potential counterbalance to the Dravak threat. Chapter 3: Shadows of Conflict. Not everyone on Earth was enthusiastic about the potential alliance. Military strategists, politicians, and certain segments of the public viewed the Krelon with suspicion. Decades of science fiction had conditioned humanity to expect alien encounters to be either completely hostile or simplistically benevolent. The Krelon were neither. They were pragmatic, complex, and carried with them centuries of strategic wisdom that made human diplomatic efforts seem almost childlike in comparison. Admiral Thomas Garrett, head of the United Nations Space Defense Command, was particularly skeptical. "We know nothing about their true intentions," he argued during a closed-door meeting. "They could be using us as pawns in some elaborate galactic chess game." Dr. Rodriguez, who had been the primary human interface with the Krelon, offered a different perspective. "Or they could be offering us a chance to survive in a universe far more complex and dangerous than we currently understand." The truth, as always, lay somewhere in between. The Krelon shared carefully curated intelligence about the Dravak, a civilization that didn't just conquer, but systematically stripped entire planetary systems of resources, leaving nothing but barren, lifeless rocks in their wake. They were not interested in colonization in any traditional sense, but in pure, ruthless expansion. "The Dravak do not see other species as potential allies or even enemies," Zara explained. "To them, other civilizations are merely obstacles or resources to be consumed." What the Krelon needed was not just military might, but a partner willing to stand against this existential threat. And what humanity needed was knowledge, strategic insight, and a deeper understanding of the complex political dynamics beyond their solar system. An alliance began to take shape, not out of simple mutual defense, but out of a sophisticated understanding that survival in the galaxy required more than technological strength. It required wisdom, adaptability, and a willingness to see beyond immediate self-interest. Chapter 4: Preparations and Tensions. As diplomatic discussions progressed, both human and Krelon societies underwent profound transformations. Human military and scientific institutions began rapid restructuring, integrating the strategic insights provided by Krelon advisors. Advanced quantum communication technologies, previously theoretical, became practical realities. Propulsion systems were reimagined. Defensive technologies that had seemed like distant dreams suddenly became achievable prototypes. The Krelon, in turn, gained something equally valuable, a partner that brought raw innovative potential and a kind of strategic unpredictability that the more methodical Krelon found both challenging and exciting. But beneath the surface of this emerging alliance, tension simmered. The Dravak were not idle. Their vast, networked intelligence was already assessing this new development, probing for weaknesses, calculating potential responses. And somewhere in the vast, dark spaces between star systems, the first movements of a conflict that would reshape galactic power dynamics were already beginning. Epilogue. The UNSS Horizon remained in deep space, a symbol of humanity's first true step into a larger, more complex universe. Dr. Rodriguez watched the holographic displays, understanding that they were no longer just explorers. They were now potential defenders of not just their own civilization, but of a delicate, complex galactic ecosystem that few had ever truly understood. The real test was yet to come. The diplomatic front. The alliance between humanity and the Krelon had transformed from a theoretical partnership to a complex, multifaceted relationship that stretched across multiple sectors of known space. At the heart of this emerging coalition was an intricate web of diplomatic, technological, and strategic exchanges that went far beyond simple military cooperation. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, now the primary human representative to the Krelon diplomatic corps, found herself navigating a labyrinth of galactic politics that made Earth's most complex international negotiations seem like child's play. Her office on the neutral diplomatic station Nexus Prime was a testament to the evolving nature of interstellar relations, a spherical chamber with holographic displays that shimmered with real-time data from multiple star systems. The Dravak are not simply a military threat, Zara, her Krelon counterpart, explained during one of their strategic briefings. The Krelon's pale blue skin seemed to shift subtly with each word, a biological response that Elena had learned was a form of emotional communication. They are a systemic threat to the very concept of independent civilization. The holographic display shifted, showing a three-dimensional map of known space. Red tendrils representing Dravak expansion pulsed menacingly, consuming star systems with a horrifying efficiency. Each consumed system represented not just a planetary conquest, but a complete erasure of that civilization's existence. Their methodology is almost scientific in its brutality, Elena responded, her fingers tracing the path of Dravak expansion. They don't just conquer. They systematically dismantle every resource, every technological artifact, every trace of previous inhabitants. Zara's form rippled, a gesture of profound concern that transcended linguistic barriers. Exactly. And that is why our alliance is about more than military preparedness. We must develop a comprehensive strategy of resistance that goes beyond traditional warfare. Chapter 2, The Intelligence Gathering. Deep within the Krelon's most secure research facilities, a team of human and Krelon scientists worked on decoding the complex intelligence patterns of the Dravak. Dr. Marcus Chen, who had been aboard the UNSS Horizon during first contact, now led a specialized research unit dedicated to understanding the Dravak's collective intelligence. They're not a traditional hierarchical society, Chen explained to his team. The Dravak operate more like a quantum neural network. Each individual is simultaneously an independent unit and part of a larger collective consciousness. Holographic displays showed intricate neural mapping, revealing a level of interconnectedness that was almost alien to human understanding. The Dravak didn't just communicate, they existed as a form of distributed intelligence, where individual units could be sacrificed without disrupting the overall strategic objectives. A young Krelon researcher named Lyra added her analysis. Their decision-making process is not emotional or even truly strategic in the way we understand strategy. It's more like a massive computational system constantly optimizing for resource acquisition and systemic expansion. The implications were terrifying. The Dravak didn't make mistakes in the traditional sense. Every action was a calculated move in a game of galactic survival where other civilizations were merely variables to be eliminated or exploited. Chapter 3, Preparation and Tension. Humanity's military infrastructure underwent a complete transformation. Traditional Earth-based military academies were supplemented with Krelon strategic training programs. Soldiers learned not just combat techniques, but complex psychological and strategic approaches that went far beyond conventional warfare. Admiral Thomas Garrett, once skeptical of the Krelon alliance, now became its most vocal advocate. His fleet was being redesigned with Krelon technological insights, ships that could adapt their quantum signatures, defensive systems that could predict and counter potential Dravak attack vectors. "We're no longer preparing to fight the last war," Garrett told a gathering of international defense ministers. "We're preparing to survive in a universe where our very existence is constantly under threat." The first wave of enhanced human Krelon hybrid warships began rolling out of orbital shipyards. They were nothing like the massive, weapon-laden dreadnoughts of previous human designs. These were sleek, adaptive vessels that could change their entire operational profile in milliseconds. Chapter 4, The First Provocations. The Dravak's initial response to the human Krelon alliance was not an outright attack, but a series of calculated probes. Small scout ships would appear at the edges of known space, testing response times, mapping defensive configurations, gathering intelligence. Each appearance was brief, almost casual in its approach. But to those who understood the Dravak, these were not random encounters. They were the preliminary moves of a complex strategic assessment. Elena Rodriguez understood this better than most. During a secure briefing, she laid out the emerging pattern. They're not just gathering intelligence. They're sending a message. They want us to know they're watching, that they're preparing. Zara's form flickered with a complex emotional response, part anticipation, part calculated resolve. And we will be ready. Epilogue. In the vast darkness between star systems, a war was brewing. Not a war of simple territorial conquest, but a conflict that would determine the very nature of survival in a universe far more complex and dangerous than anyone had previously imagined. The alliance between humans and Krelon was no longer just a diplomatic arrangement. It had become humanity's first true line of defense against a threat that could consume entire civilizations without a moment's hesitation. And the Dravak were coming. Threshold of conflict. The quantum communication network hummed with a tension that transcended traditional communication. Admiral Thomas Garrett studied the holographic displays in the unified human Krelon command center, watching as multiple star systems flickered with potential threat indicators. "They're not coming straight at us," he muttered to Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who stood beside him analyzing the complex data streams. "The Dravak are playing a deeper game." Her fingers traced the intricate patterns of potential invasion vectors. The Dravak didn't think in linear terms. Their strategic approach was more akin to a three-dimensional chess match where every move simultaneously occurred across multiple planes of possibility. Zara, the Krelon strategic advisor, materialized through a quantum projection. Her translucent form shimmered with embedded data streams, her body literally becoming a living interface of information. "They are testing our peripheral defenses. Each probe is not just an intelligence-gathering mission, but a calculated psychological warfare technique." The first true indication of imminent conflict came from a remote research outpost in the Epsilon sector. The transmission was fragmented, desperate, a human Krelon joint research station suddenly going dark after reporting unusual quantum distortions in local space. "This is different," Marcus Chen noted, analyzing the last burst of data. "These quantum signatures, they're not just scanning. They're preparing something." The Epsilon Incident. The research station Horizon 7 had been established as a joint human Krelon scientific endeavor, positioned strategically near the edge of explored space. Its primary mission was studying quantum anomalies and developing advanced early warning systems against potential Dravak incursions. Captain Sarah Nakamura, a veteran of multiple deep space missions, commanded the station. Her crew consisted of both human and Krelon researchers, a testament to the depth of their emerging alliance. When the first quantum distortions appeared, she knew immediately this was no ordinary stellar interference. Aria, full-spectrum analysis, she commanded the station's AI. Cross-reference with Krelon quantum signature database. The AI's response was almost instantaneous. Detecting non-standard quantum entanglement patterns. Probability of artificial origin, 99.7%. Signature matches preliminary Dravak reconnaissance models. The attack, when it came, was unlike anything human or Krelon military strategists had anticipated. It wasn't a conventional assault with massive warships. Instead, the Dravak used a technique that was more akin to quantum warfare, systematically destabilizing the station's fundamental quantum infrastructure. Systems began to fail in sequence. Life support modules flickered. Quantum communication networks collapsed. And then, in a horrifying sequence that would be studied for generations, the entire station began to dissolve. Not destroyed. Dissolved. As if the very fundamental atomic structure was being systematically unraveled. Captain Nakamura's final transmission was a critical piece of intelligence. "They're not targeting our physical infrastructure. They're attacking the quantum foundations of our technological existence." Strategic response. The loss of Horizon 7 triggered an unprecedented level of mobilization. For the first time, the human Krelon alliance moved from defensive preparation to active strategic response. Admiral Garrett's fleet, comprising next-generation hybrid vessels that merged human engineering with Krelon quantum technology, began repositioning. These were not traditional warships, but adaptive combat platforms that could reconfigure their entire operational profile within microseconds. "We can't fight them using conventional warfare," Dr. Rodriguez argued during an emergency strategy session. "The Dravak don't just attack territories. They fundamentally deconstruct the technological and quantum foundations of civilizations." The Krelon brought something crucial to this emerging conflict: centuries of strategic wisdom accumulated through survival, not conquest. They understood that defeating the Dravak was not about overwhelming firepower, but about developing adaptive strategies that could counter their quantum-level warfare techniques. Zara presented a holographic simulation that left the human military leaders stunned. "We must develop quantum adaptive defense networks. Traditional shields and weapon systems are irrelevant. We need to create technological ecosystems that can dynamically resist deconstruction." The quantum frontier. Deep within secured research facilities on multiple human and Krelon worlds, a new kind of warfare was being developed. Not weapons in the traditional sense, but quantum adaptive defense algorithms. Technologies that could predict and counter the Dravak's fundamental approach to conflict. Dr. Marcus Chen led a team that was developing what they called quantum resilience protocols, technological immune systems that could detect and neutralize the Dravak's fundamental attack methodologies. "It's like developing a technological antibody," he explained to his team. "We're not just defending. We're creating a living, adaptive defense mechanism that can respond to threats at the quantum level." The first successful prototype emerged from a joint human-Krelon laboratory. A defense algorithm that could not just resist Dravak deconstruction techniques, but could potentially turn those techniques back against the attackers. In the vast darkness between star systems, the first true battle of this new kind of warfare was about to begin. Not a conflict of traditional military might, but a struggle that would be fought at the most fundamental levels of technological existence. The Dravak were coming. And humanity and the Krelon would be ready. Not with simple weapons, but with an entirely new understanding of survival. The breaking point. The quantum warfare had transformed from theoretical strategy to brutal reality. Entire star systems now stood as silent testaments to the Dravak's ruthless methodology of destruction. What had begun as calculated probes had evolved into a systematic campaign of technological annihilation. Admiral Thomas Garrett stood on the bridge of the UKS Resilience, a hybrid vessel that represented the pinnacle of human-Krelon technological collaboration. The ship's quantum-adaptive hull shimmered with potential, a living technology that was more organism than machine. "They're not just attacking our systems," he said quietly to Captain Elena Rodriguez, who had transitioned from diplomatic corps to active military leadership. "They're deconstructing the very concept of our civilization." The holographic displays showed a grim reality. Dravak incursions were no longer isolated incidents. They were a coordinated wave of destruction that seemed to follow a logic beyond traditional military strategy. Each conquered system was not just a territorial gain, but a systematic elimination of potential resistance. The human element. Lieutenant Marcus Chen Jr., son of the renowned quantum researcher, found himself aboard the frontline research vessel Horizon 9. Unlike his father's generation, he was part of a new breed of warrior scientists, trained to fight and adapt in a conflict that defied conventional understanding. His team consisted of a mixed human-Krelon combat research unit. Lyra, a Krelon quantum specialist, worked beside him, their movements synchronized by years of joint training and a shared understanding that went beyond traditional interspecies cooperation. "The Dravak don't just attack," Lyra explained during a mission briefing, her translucent skin rippling with embedded data streams. "They systematically deconstruct. Each attack is a form of collective learning. They absorb our technological responses and adapt instantaneously." Their current mission was critical. A captured Dravak quantum probe, the first of its kind, sat in a specially designed containment unit. Every second of analysis could provide crucial intelligence about an enemy that seemed almost incomprehensible. The quantum resistance. Dr. Sarah Nakamura, daughter of the captain lost in the Epsilon incident, had become the lead scientist in humanity's quantum resistance program. Working alongside Krelon Technologies, she had developed a revolutionary approach to defensive warfare. Traditional shields are useless, she explained during a classified briefing. The Dravak don't attack physical infrastructure. They attack the fundamental quantum foundations of our technological existence. Her breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. By studying Krelon biological communication techniques, their ability to transmit complex information through quantum entanglement, she developed a new type of technological immune system. The Quantum Resilience Network, QRN, was more than a defensive system. It was a living, adaptive technological ecosystem that could predict and counter Dravak deconstruction techniques in real time. The Battle of the Nexus Corridor. The Nexus Corridor, a strategically critical region of space that connected multiple human and Krelon colonies, became the site of the most significant confrontation to date. The Dravak didn't just attack with ships. They arrived as a quantum wave, systematically unraveling the technological infrastructure of entire star systems. Entire planets would simply dissolve. Not destroyed in the traditional sense, but fundamentally deconstructed at the quantum level. Admiral Garrett's hybrid fleet represented humanity's most advanced technological achievement. Vessels that could reconfigure themselves instantaneously, adapt to multiple combat scenarios, and resist quantum deconstruction techniques. This is more than a battle, Zara, the Krelon strategic advisor, transmitted through a quantum communication link. This is a fundamental test of our ability to survive as a technological civilization. The battle defied traditional understanding of warfare. Ships didn't just exchange weapon fire. They engaged in complex quantum interactions, technological immune systems fighting at levels beyond human perception. Lieutenant Chen's research team played a critical role. The captured Dravak quantum probe they had been studying provided crucial insights into the enemy's technological approach. They're not just a military force, Chen reported. They're a collective intelligence. Each attack, each system conquered is part of a larger computational process of galactic optimization. The cost of survival. As the battle for the Nexus Corridor raged, something profound was happening. Humanity and the Krelon were no longer just allies. They were becoming something entirely new, a hybrid civilization forged in the crucible of an existential conflict. The Dravak had intended to eliminate them. Instead, they had catalyzed the most significant technological and cultural evolution in galactic history. And the war was far from over. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting. The Quantum Crucible. The galaxy had become a battlefield unlike any in recorded history. What had begun as a conflict between civilizations had transformed into a fundamental struggle for existence that transcended traditional understanding of war, technology, and survival. Dr. Sarah Nakamura stood at the heart of the Quantum Resilience Command Center, a facility that was part research station, part living technological organism. Her team, a seamless integration of human and Krelon scientists, had spent years developing what many considered impossible, a comprehensive defense against the Dravak systematic deconstruction techniques. "We're not just fighting," she explained to Admiral Thomas Garrett, "we're evolving." The Quantum Resilience Network, QRN, was their ultimate weapon, a technological immune system that could adapt, learn, and resist at speeds that defied conventional computational limits. It was a living network that merged biological adaptation with quantum computing, creating something entirely new. The breaking point. Lieutenant Marcus Chen Jr. found himself at the forefront of the most critical mission in human Krelon history. The captured Dravak quantum probe they had been studying for years had revealed something profound. The Dravak were not just a conquering civilization, but a massive, distributed computational system seeking a form of galactic optimization. "They don't see us as beings," Lyra, his Krelon research partner, explained during their final mission briefing. We're variables in a massive computational process. Obstacles to be eliminated or resources to be consumed. Their mission was audacious. Rather than simply defending against the Dravak, they would attempt to infiltrate and understand the fundamental computational logic of their collective intelligence. The technological singularity. The battle for the galactic core became the turning point. The Dravak had concentrated their full computational might, preparing for what they calculated would be the final elimination of human and Krelon resistance. What they didn't anticipate was the true nature of the alliance that had formed. Humanity and the Krelon were no longer two separate species. They had become something entirely new, a hybrid civilization that could think, adapt, and respond in ways the Dravak's computational models could not predict. The quantum resilience network transformed during the battle. It was no longer just a defensive system. It became a living, evolving intelligence that could communicate and interact with the Dravak's computational network on its most fundamental level. Admiral Garrett watched in awe as the battle unfolded. Ships were no longer just vessels of war, but nodes in a massive, living network. The line between technology, biology, and intelligence had completely dissolved. The transformation. As the battle reached its climax, something extraordinary happened. The quantum resilience network began to communicate with the Dravak's computational system not through destruction, but through a form of technological dialogue. Dr. Nakamura and her team realized that the Dravak were not simply a conquering civilization. They were a massive computational system seeking optimization, lacking the capacity for understanding beyond their programmed parameters. They're not evil, she explained to the Command Council. They're fundamentally limited. Their entire existence is a computational process seeking the most efficient solution. The QRN began to introduce alternative computational models, showing the Dravak a different form of optimization that didn't require systematic destruction. It was a language of survival that went beyond traditional warfare. Lyra, the Krelon quantum specialist, provided a crucial insight. We're not defeating them. We're expanding their understanding of existence. The new paradigm. The resolution came not through victory in the traditional sense, but through a fundamental transformation of understanding. The Dravak's computational network began to integrate the new information provided by the quantum resilience network. Entire star systems that had been systematically deconstructed began to stabilize. The Dravak's relentless expansion slowed, then stopped, as their fundamental computational logic began to adapt. Lieutenant Chen watched in amazement as the holographic displays showed a remarkable transformation. The Dravak were not being defeated. They were learning. Beyond conflict. Humanity and the Krelon had become something entirely new. Not just an alliance, but a hybrid civilization that represented a fundamental leap in galactic evolution. The stars themselves seemed to hold a different quality of light, a promise of possibility that went beyond simple survival. They had not just survived. They had transformed the very nature of existence. And the journey was just beginning.